All right, y'all. Random research episode 2. A lot of stories I've been researching, man. Let's see if y'all know any of these stories. Now, yeah, check this. All right, let's get into this story, right? Now, Brent Lanier Lynch, the son of the late great Roger Troutman, was sentenced to 32 years in prison for the beating death of his ex-girlfriend, Carolyn Leet. Now, the story goes on March 3rd, 2016, around 3 a.m., Brent called his mother, Brenda Lynch, to come and pick up him and his girlfriend, Carolyn, because somebody stole the car. Now, his mother instead told her sister, which is his aunt, to go pick him up because his mother knew he was drunk, and she's terrified when he starts drinking because he gets crazy. Now, his mother was so scared that she left the house with her granddaughter because she didn't even want to be around when he comes in the house. Now, after his aunt picked him up, she knew right away that both of them were drunk because Carolyn fell down and Brent had to carry her in the house. 2 hours later, Brent called his aunt to come back because Carolyn was unresponsive, and when the aunt arrived, she saw Carolyn bloody and out cold. The next door neighbor even tried CPR, but she wouldn't wake up, and her body was ice cold. Now, Brent, he tried to escape in the taxi cab. He had called a taxi cab and everything, and when the taxi cab arrived, he got in, but at the same time, the police pulled up and they stopped him just in time because, see, he already has 4 felony convictions involving other women. He was convicted of making terroristic threats against his then pregnant girlfriend, and the same offense shortly after she gave birth. He also was convicted of 3rd-degree assault against different women and criminal damage to property. When police found Carolyn, she was dead. She was on the bed with her legs hanging off the side, half dressed with no pants on, her shirt pulled up and one boot on. She was bleeding from her mouth, her nose, and eyes, defensive scratches on her hands and arms, and blood splattered all over the wall. When they asked Brent what had happened, he said he tried to throw Carolyn on the bed, but she missed and hit her head on the floor. And all the blood that was coming from her nose and the bed sheets were wet because he threw water on her to revive her. Now, when they did the autopsy, her blood alcohol was less than the legal limit. She had numerous contusions to the back of her head and chin, lacerations on both lips, fractured nasal bones, numerous contusions of the body, and a fractured rib. She died of traumatic head injury due to physical assault, and police said it was in the hand of her boyfriend Brent. Because look, he was 6'3", 236 pounds, and Carolyn was 5'5", 95 pounds. And the crazy part is Brent, he never admitted to her murder, but the jury still found him guilty and sentenced him to 386 months in prison. Shaking my head, man. Crazy, man. Here's another story. See if y'all heard about this story right now. R&B singer Cindy Songbird, who y'all probably know from singing with Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells and replacing Florence Ballard of the Supremes. Now, she was kidnapped at knife point going back to her apartment. Now, the story goes on December 2nd, 1969, just 1 year in being in with the Supremes, around 7:30 p.m., after leaving rehearsal, Cindy, her boyfriend, and another guy went to her Hollywood apartment. When she went into her bedroom, there was a white, sloppy looking man, and he had no shoes on. He was barefooted, but he had two big knives that he had got out of her kitchen. And at first, she thought it was a joke because she had a friend who used to play jokes on her all the time, because she really couldn't see his face that clear at first. But when he grabbed her and put the knife to her throat, that's when she knew it was real. Her boyfriend and the other guy was in the living room and didn't even know what was going on. They was in there just talking, waiting for her to come out. And that's when the kidnapper forced her into the living room, made her tie up her boyfriend and the friend, and then he robbed them for $100. Then he forced Cindy downstairs into her own car and took off down the highway. Now, while driving on the highway for about 2 hours, the kidnapper slowed down when he seen a cop car. And that's when Cindy somehow managed to unlock the door, and she jumped out onto the freeway, running for her life down the side of the freeway. And a cop seen her and came to her rescue. 4 days later, the kidnapper named Charles Collier surrendered to police. The crazy part is, he called the police on himself, and they found him in a little cheap motel with his head in his hands. And come to find out, this guy lives in the same building and was the maintenance man to her apartment complex where she lived, because y'all know the maintenance man got all the keys to the apartments. He probably been watching her the whole time. That's scary right there, man. Now, in court, he admitted to the crimes, and he said he don't know why he did it. A lot of people say that in court. They don't know why they do the crimes, man. Charles Collier was charged with kidnapping, 2 counts of first-degree robbery, and joyriding. People crazy, man. Shaking my head, man. It's a crazy world, y'all. Oh, here's another kidnapping story, right? Back in 1986, legendary female singer Mary Wells, who y'all probably know from the #1 hit song titled My Guy. You know, she gave Motown and Berry Gordy their first #1 song. She was the first one. Now, she claimed that her and her husband, who is Curtis Womack, Bobby Womack's brother, and their infant child was kidnapped by 2 fans. Now, the story goes, Mary and her husband were getting out of the car at an airport in Saginaw, Michigan, where she had just finished performing when 2 fans approached her for an autograph. Now, after that, the 2 fans wanted them to hear some songs that they had written and told Mary to get inside the car to listen. Now, after playing the songs for her, they told her to give them a record deal, and Mary responded by saying no. That's when the fans got mad, took off with her and the family in the car for about 2 days. Now, Mary claims she didn't try to escape because she thought they would hurt her infant baby. And she did tell the fans that kidnapped her to let them go. And if they did let them go, she wouldn't tell the police. And that's when the kidnappers finally let them free because they got nervous. Now, when Mary reported this story, the media accused her of lying about the story and said it was all a publicity stunt because she never reported it to the police. And you know what? Come to find out, the whole story was made up. According to her husband, Curtis Womack, who came clean in Mary Wells' book, he said what really happened was they was at the airport and he forgot that he put his passport in the luggage bag that the airline had mistakenly sent to another location. Now, Mary had her passport and she could have left him there, but she decided to stay with him. So her manager made up the story so they wouldn't get sued for not showing up to the show in Toronto. Wow. Shaking my head. Man, that Mary Wells story coming too, man. Pretty good book. Y'all should check that out. Let me see what else is on here. Random research. Y'all probably heard about this story. Y'all probably heard about the time Tina Turner almost killed Randy Jackson one night. Now, Randy Jackson said he thought Tina Turner and Bernadette was messing around with each other. And he said he caught them doing something and it caught them off guard. Now, the story goes back in 1983, Randy Jackson was dating Tina Turner's assistant, a girl named Bernadette. And Bernadette was trying to leave him though. And one night she showed up to Tina's house crying and scared, telling her that Randy threatened her. Everywhere she'd go, he'd be stalking her. And Tina Turner's advice was, you should leave him, because she dealt with all that before with Ike Turner back in the day. She done dealt with all that mess, so she know. And somehow Randy Jackson knew she was over there and tried to get Tina to buzz him in. And when they didn't buzz him in, that's when Randy got mad, jumped the fence and threw a flower pot through the window and walked in the house looking possessed and crazy. Now, Tina Turner saw that. She went straight to her bedroom, grabbed her shotgun, cocked it back, and pointed it at Randy's head, told him to freeze or she was going to blow his brains out. Now, when he didn't take her serious, that's when Tina let off a warning shot in the air, blowing a hole in the ceiling to let him know she wasn't playing. And look, Randy Jackson still charged at her. He still charged at her. And that's when Tina pointed the gun right at him, cool and calm, and shot at him towards the doorway. She busted a shot at him. That's when he left and Bernadette followed him. Now, they never said she actually shot him, but Randy Jackson said he has the bullet scar to prove it. Wow. Man, that's crazy. Randy Jackson off the chain, man. Well, here's another story about Randy Jackson right now. According to Michael Jackson's bodyguard, Matt Fittis, he said one time Michael became so paranoid that he ordered them to shoot his older brother, Randy Jackson. Now, the story goes, back in 2005, Michael had surrounded himself with the Nation of Islam bodyguards and became paranoid to the point that he didn't even want his own family coming to see him. He didn't want them at his house or nothing. The reason being, at the time, all of his brothers wanted him to get on board for the Jackson 5 reunion tour, in which they were offered $500 million to do. And Michael wasn't with it, and he refused to do it. And that's when his brother Randy Jackson went to his house himself and tried to force his way in past the bodyguards to speak to Michael. But Michael wasn't having it, and Michael ordered him to be shot. Now, they say Randy was so scared, he got on the phone and threatened to call the press and told the bodyguards, if you shoot me, the whole world will know about it. Wow. Shaking my head, man. Or Randy Jackson. Wow, Jacksons, man. Yeah, I tell you, man. I also remember one time, who was it? Randy, Jermaine, and Janet. They were saying that the will that Michael Jackson left to his mother, Catherine, and his 3 kids was fake and forged by the lawyers after Michael died. They try to say that the will was forged by some Hollywood lawyers or something. Because at the time, Michael's estate was worth over $500 million. And Michael only left it to his mother and his kids because he made Catherine the guardian, and she was taking care of them at one of his properties. The crazy part is, Catherine, she ended up missing for weeks, and nobody could find her. And that's when Michael's daughter, Paris Jackson, put out those tweets on Twitter asking for help to find her. And when the police investigated, they found Catherine at the oldest daughter, Reeby's house. And they took pictures and everything. They was playing Uno and saying she was okay. And then Janet Jackson said she felt that her mother would feel better and relaxed if she wasn't around Michael's kids. That's crazy. What's up with that, man? And then look, after that, that's when Randy and Jermaine and Janet tried to convince and persuade Michael's kids to leave the house and come see Catherine in Arizona. And they was telling them she was all right, come to Arizona and see her. But they refused and asked security to remove Jermaine, Randy, and Janet from the house where they lived in Calabasas, California. And a fight did happen because Janet was saying that they got the right to be at that house. They got the right to be at the house or whatever, but a fight did happen and police were called to the house and a report of a fight with allegations of a physical assault was made. Now, according to TMZ, allegedly, Janet slapped Paris and yelled, "You a spoiled little bee," to which Paris responded with a slap and told Janet, "This is our house, not the Jackson's family house. Get the F out." They also say that Joe Jackson's nephew, who deals with Catherine's daily affairs, put Randy in a headlock and punched Jermaine in the mouth, but no arrests were made. Wow. It's crazy, man. Shaking my head, man. And I don't know what Paris and Janet's relationship is today. Hopefully they can work it out for the sake of Michael, man. And I know at Joe Jackson's funeral, there was still a lot of tension at the funeral.